I'm going to let you start this one however you want, my girl.
The last time you let me start it, I was a big dope. So
Okay,
do you
cool.
really
Well, I guess I started it by saying I'll let you start this one. And we're back. Sean and Cass. Once again, doing our thing.
You know, we love doing this, but it's a trip in itself showing up half the time. But I'm glad to be here.
I feel like if we had a permanent studio and we didn't have to set it up from scratch every time, it would probably help us because it'd be like, oh, we're in the mood to do it. Let's do it. You know, this is like, we're in the mood to do it. I'll see you in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
That way we could be more like real world confessional style where we just like go in the booth and we're like, yo, what's up?
Oh, man. Yo, what a great innovation on that show. That was a really I haven't thought about that show in so long. It was so influential on me. The Real World.
What aspect of it?
It was addictive. I don't know. It was just like, I mean, I was a kid and you're watching like 20-somethings like
Have sex and be promiscuous.
that wasn't even really that big of a thing till like way later.
Yeah, they're like, how do we make this a little more interesting?
Yeah, like the most interesting thing that would happen in a season is like a roommate would get kicked out or somebody would have a physical confrontation or there would be a fight. But like for the most part, it was just like kind of them living their boring ass fucking lives.
I remember when Ruthie would be topless, or there was like one season in Hawaii where there's like a lot of toplessness.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. They let her get a DWI like on the show. Do you remember that?
Anything for the ratings.
They like
clearly.
they established her as like a crazy binge drinker, and I think that like the producers had an intervention with her or something like that. But either way, like they let her drive drunk on the show. It was insane, you know.
Well, that's the thing with these shows is that they like booze them up on purpose. Like I used to think like, oh, I'd be great on The Real World. I'll just be a peacemaker and I'd be a lovable character and I wouldn't get into drama. And then you get a little older and a little wiser and you realize, oh, they wouldn't cast you. And then two, okay, you think you're someone and then they sleep deprive you and fill you with booze and then all of a sudden you're a mess. And I'm a very sensitive person who would definitely play my part.
Actually, you'd be perfect for that show, I feel like.
Oh, yeah?
In a way, yeah, because I feel like the way you present, it's like so innocent and approachable whenever, and then there's this other side to you that I think would shock people and shock the audiences and get a little booze in you, and there's a whole nother side.
Yeah, but I'm a sweet boozer.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, for the most part. I don't know. We don't really.
I haven't tried it in a
We
couple
don't
years.
test those waters. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I drank. I mean, we have like a half a glass of wine with Nick Powers when he'll come on the podcast, but I don't even think that counts. I can't remember the last time I was intoxicated on alcohol.
No, I've been talking about it with Mare for months. Like, oh, well, maybe we could have a drinking night one night, and then it's just like never a good time.
Because why would you? Like, it's like, what's going to happen that's going to be so fun when we're drinking that we can't already do?
But I see all these bars, these outdoor bars, and I'm like, wow, that's so nice.
Yeah.
And if craft beer just sat a little bit better in my stomach, I could totally be one of those people.
We were drinking non-alcoholic IPAs when we were up at your mom's.
Oh, those were delicious.
Yeah. And you know
that
what
was delicious.
You know what was cool about that was like I got that I like it was psychosomatic, but I got a little feeling of like, oh yeah, I'm toasted. Like, you know, that feeling of the smell of beer and the taste of beer, like, can start getting that feeling going. Totally had that.
Everything that surrounds the ritual of drinking is enough to induce like a little bit of a woohoo.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, we're on a microdose right now.
Yeah, I was like, we gotta delay this a few hours.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, we were gonna start this a few hours ago. I was all ready and everything. I'm like, okay, cool. And you're looking at me like, no. I'm
gonna go lie in the sun.
Yeah.
And do some work and do some other things.
Yeah.
Just talk to my friends.
Yeah, but it was just a microdose. Highly recommend a mushroom microdose too. I normally pretty much only do the acid microdose, but
I like it because it's probably a little bit shorter. You know, like acid, no matter how much I take, it'll last 12 hours. So, like, I won't touch it after, like, 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
Unless you're willing to stay up till, like, 4 in the morning.
Yeah. But usually then other people fall asleep and I'll just be upset that I'm still awake. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm very precious about sleep. Some people are, some people aren't. I'm one of those people who's like not a happy person when I can't sleep.
I think the microdose is like especially effective because we've done so many flood doses. So it kind of has that effect that the non-alcoholic beer had on me.
Totally.
You know, you're introducing this molecule that like your body understands. It understands where you're taking it, where we're going with this whole thing.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm looking at you and you're shrouded in rainbows.
Fuck that. Let's see. Let me pull a card. Should I pull a card?
Yeah, please.
How's the micro treating you, my girl?
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not derailed my day, but re-railed my day, I think would be a better way of putting it. You know?
Yeah.
Because you wake up and you think you're going to be serious, and then you just do this, and you're like, oh, I got to take it easy.
Yeah.
Move a little slower. Work my way up to jumping on the podcast.
Yeah. It's crazy that people use these to like become better capitalists and stuff. I mean,
this does not work like that for me, I don't think.
Well, I think that psychedelics in general make you more of who you are. It amplifies the you behind you, you know. And we're fucking total fucking house stoners. Like that's what we do.
Yeah, whatever you're naturally inclined for.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep it rolling as long as we can.
I'm not shrouded in rainbows though. Hopefully the sun will come back out so I can once again have my merkaba of protection around me.
Yeah. You've been using that merkaba a lot lately.
What's that mean? What do you mean using it?
Well, I just talked to you the other day, and you were like, I was like, oh, we were having like a more confrontational hang with someone, and I was like, hey, how was that for you? And you were like, oh, it was cool. I had my merkaba up.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I very much have to intentionally do that because I think I'm a little bit more susceptible than you are. I've noticed that. Like,
oh, yeah, mine's always like,
yeah.
I got layers. I got blankets on me. You can't see them, but I'm like covered in blankets.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, and this isn't, there's no offense, but like it's sometimes to me reads as like, oh, Cass has one foot out the door. She's not fully invested in this. Where
a
it's
cold
like,
indifference?
Yeah, kind of. You know, it's like cosmic love. It's like indifferent. You know, it's just like, here I am. And of course you fucking, you know, dive into the deep end, this and that. But when I get around other beings, I'm just like, I'm pulled into whatever their vibe is. It's like a psychic thing starts to go down. And like, if someone has some little thing that they're like tamping down and whatever, like I can feel that and I get like invested in it, and it just takes me on a roller coaster ride. So there's certain people and situations where we get in where I'm like, be conscious of it, like just stay in your body. And that's what the merkaba is about for me. It's just like stay in your body, stay in your story.
Yeah.
We had someone came by the other day and they were talking about a very intense, dramatic breakup they had. And it was such a wild ride. We're pretty good friends with this couple. Like, you know, another artist couple that like, we're like, cool, they're doing the thing, we're doing the thing. Like, we don't know that many couples, really. But, you know, totally really respected the shit out of them and everything, and had no idea they were going through issues. And all of a sudden the thing's over and we're hearing every detail of it. And it's very messy, and it involves alcohol and physical abuse and like all this stuff. And it was like, I'm like listening to this and I'm like, I'm both people in the story, and I'm like, my emotions are all over the place. And it's like, she leaves and I was like, you just go on with your day. And I'm like, Cass, can you come here? come here. I was like, we need to do some sort of like closing ceremony. I just need to hear myself say some things, and I need to hear that you heard me say some things. Like, that ain't us. That's not our story. Really, none of that really applies to our life. So like, let's just, you know, that kind of thing. Clear the air.
I think that's important to do because the lines do get blurry. And especially when you're like super psychic and empathetic and intuitive, there's like, and the boundaries between, there's benefits to both sides of everything. So you having less boundaries and being a little more open is like allows you to connect more deeply with people and hear more deeply what they're saying and intuit more deeply what they're thinking. And at times that can be too much for you or for the other person. Yeah. And then it's one of those things. But like, yeah, as you get older, you continue to learn like, oh, what is my disposition? How do I? And I think that was you like stepping into like, okay,
Who am I?
well, you're like, I'm very recognizing that like when we've had friends who talk about like a breakup they're going through, that it like hits you so hard that you think you're the one going through the breakup.
Yeah, it brings up like all my breakups and like how sad that is and like how terrible you feel after, and like it's just stuff like it's good for me to confront, because that's the shit that the walls around my heart are constructed of, you know.
Yeah.
My relations with women throughout my life. You know, it goes back to my mom, my sisters, you know, my grandma, all this stuff. But
You've always had a lot of female presence in your life, a lot of women. You've
absolutely.
been I guess, serial monogamist for. I mean,
Yeah.
I've used that term loosely, but
Yeah. Is that how you describe my love life? Serial monogamy?
monogamish, serial monogamish,
Serial freakdom.
freaky deacum.
Mm-hmm. Let me pull a card.
Okay.
What's this card for?
Everybody.
Yeah.
This moment.
We're gonna.
This
yeah.
podcast. Whenever whoever's watching this is watching it, listening to it.
Yeah.
I guess everyone can ask a question right now and let this be kind of a universal response.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, why couldn't that work?
Yeah, and we'll maybe pull multiple cards, but here's the first one.
Okay, wait. Let me ask a question.
Okay. You know, there's a podcast. You should say that out loud.
Oh, my question?
Yeah.
All right. My question is, what do I need to be more aware of?
Okay. What do we need to be more aware of?
Okay.
Page of Pentacles.
Jesus Christ.
This little fucker.
This little fucker.
And
Oh,
you
God.
know that I have issues with the page boys in this deck. I've called them little bitches before. They're just like, I'm sitting here with this like one little pentacle, and he's like being all precious about it and everything.
Well, he looks hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He does look hopeful. He only has one pentacle, and he's like treating it like it's a really big deal.
At the beginning of a journey, maybe.
Yeah.
Healing of a relationship with money. And I feel like I wish money was something you could get on the other side of, rather than like, at least for us, it's like this, because we're so, we'd rather sacrifice things than do other things, you know, like sacrifice having kids or buying a house or whatever it is.
The American dream.
Sacrifice the American dream to have like a freewheeling life with our other unemployable friends.
It's true. It's true when you really think about it. The people that have stuck around in our life, the people that have been like the long-term, like deep homies, are unemployable.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because we have a lot of free time. I don't even know what day of the week it ever is. So like I can't like to have friends that are only available like on Saturday afternoon and Sunday. It's like it's not enough. It's not enough. So you end up finding the other unemployable freaks out there.
Yeah, and that's why we're very excited to like play in the crypto world, and who knows how that's going. I literally will not even look anymore. I just took some big risks and then closed the books and said, well, that money is wherever it needs to be. And but I think this is like an engagement with material, obviously, and realizing that we're all like students and early on the path, and maybe for you it's not money. Maybe you got the money thing figured out. And maybe for you it's more like something else in the material world. I don't know. Fucking
I mean, I think
bad tarot readings by Sean and Cass.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think the money thing for me, it's so weird because like I never had anything to really start with besides like no student loans or anything. Like I just kind of like came out and I was just kind of like at even. And I worked at the deli for a year plus after college, like no hopes of anything. But then after that, money came, it kind of came easy to me, you know, a little bit. I had a particular skill set and I got paid pretty well for that. And it's gone pretty good. I've had I've been in my career for like 17 years. Yeah,
it kind of makes you kind of cocky about money, because you're like, even when you have no money, you're like, well, it'll come and it'll go.
Kind of.
And it'll be back again.
But
Maybe
it's not a cockiness. It's a confidence in myself, because the only way I've ever made money was by coming up with ideas. Literally, that's it. Like, I guess we sometimes get paid for a service, but it's really we're getting paid for our ideas and the way that we execute that service.
Do you remember that time we were into
Kundalini Yoga?
And we did like 11 minutes like this?
Oh yeah,
And
it's this kind of thing, and you're doing this,
chanting a mantra.
Yeah, so you start doing it, and they get everyone to like in sync and doing this at the same time. And like 30 seconds in, you're like, this is pretty powerful. My arms are getting tired. And then you end up doing it for 11 minutes straight while you're chanting this particular thing. And, whatever. We're down for whatever. So we do whatever, whenever. We were with a group of people and we did that. But it fucking worked.
No shit.
It took us into like abundance. A job came in right after we did that. And I don't even know what the hell how you could explain that kind of thing. It's a ritual.
It's a ritual, and I think there's ritual magic, and I think with ritual magic comes, like, you can get what you desire, and then sometimes what you desire comes with a cost. So it's like, I'm like, oh, it's not good or bad right now, and that's where I've become very, like, content in the insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that I'm not uncomfortable sometimes with it, but, like, more content with, like, okay, maybe the building desperation will lead to better ideas, or a new way of thinking outside of the box, or new devotional practices, or, you know what I mean? Just kind of like being open to the juice of life, of what happens.
Yeah.
And knowing, especially, I mean, this whole thing, what we've all gone through collectively in the last couple of years, has really broken us all in a way that we've cracked open to, like, we don't feel like tomorrow's guaranteed. Yeah. And there's something very scary but also liberating about that state of consciousness. Yeah. And yeah.
It feels like an in-between phase a little bit, you know. Have you ever heard of liminal spaces?
No, tell me about it.
A liminal space is like the space in between. It's that feeling of like, kind of when you're first waking up, like you've left the dream world behind, but you're not quite in your waking life yet. Or a physical example would be like a hallway or an elevator, like places like you're between things, you're between destinations. You've left this one thing behind.
Kind of like the Bardo states.
Yeah. But I feel like we're kind of caught in like a collective liminal space. Where it's like, well, there was a way of life before this pandemic that we've all kind of had to just say bye to. Like the grasping and the clinging to that way of life, obviously, is not working out. So we're like preparing for this new thing, but it seems like we're not quite there yet. So it's just it's a little. It can be frustrating and disorienting, and I think it leads to. If you're not really conscious of that and doing work on keeping yourself calm, I feel like it can be the kind of thing that just like arouses confusion and frustration and
fear.
Yeah. But if you're aware of it and and especially at this point in human history, like we're all kind of stuck there, you know. I feel like that offers some solace for me, for my soul, is just be like, cool, we're all collectively going through something. We're waking up, you know.
Yeah, Mare had mentioned the other day that she's like astrologically, this was going to be seen as the great retirement period.
Yeah.
Like where people are maybe leaving.
Resignation, mass resignation.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when you realize you might not have as much control as you think, you can kind of like think it's a little more funny. And you were saying to me yesterday, you're like, this is the best time of our life. Like, we're going to look back on this and be like, we were doing this and this. And I was like, wow, you said it to me at the most perfect time, because I was not in the best headspace.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know if you could feel that, but I just was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, a lot of the people who listen to us probably are on the younger side, and like, think about what a blessing that is. Like, just having your life ahead of you and being in this time of like great abundance with, you know, the advancements in technology, the way we can connect with people, the way that you can start your own business online and become an entrepreneur. Like you can become a filmmaker with your cell phone. Like technology is like accessible to people right now to fulfill their dreams, and that might make it more challenging in some ways because there's more of a lot of people doing that. But there's also like an availability to pursue your dreams probably more accessibly than it's ever been before.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, you know, then it feels like pressure filled and like, oh no, why am I not doing something or whatever? All the, you know,
all the judgments. Yeah, I was talking to a friend last night, and she was beating herself up, and it was just reminding me, like, I don't want you to beat yourself up. And then I'm like, I beat myself up. Yeah. And it's just like this thing that you wouldn't want your friend to beat themselves up and tell themselves bad stories and be mean to themselves. So why would you do that to yourself? And it's kind of like you have to remember that your mind is like your closest ally, and you shouldn't make them an ally, right?
Well, that's when you have to be, and all that was the other day when I said, like, we're going to look back at this as the best time of our life, is just a sweet little message from our future selves. It's like a future memory that's been implanted. Like, yo, look at all we have going on right now. Like, just start naming the stuff to be grateful for, and then be like, we're going to eventually look back at this as like really good time in our life.
Also,
we felt free. We had a lot of friends. We're making 2 films right now. We're very excited about that stuff. We're very excited about Mare and our relationships and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, just fills me with gratitude, and just receive those messages from future Sean, who's just like, yo, be grateful, man. Don't take this moment right now for granted.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to pull another card?
Sure.
That sent us on a tangent.
Yeah, sure did.
This is what happens when we're not the kind of podcast that pre-plans what we're going to say.
No. No, how can you? I mean, look, I look up to, like, Ram Dass would just go and speak like fucking like 200 nights a year and go and just speak and get up there with no notes or anything. Just get up there and just fucking tap in and go for it. I really am impressed by that. The Grateful Dead, the same thing. It's like they would go out there with no set list or anything, and they would just fucking jam with each other.
Craziest thing.
Yeah, right.
But now when I go to another show where they like stop in between each song and like we'll look at each other and like start again, I'm like, this is so lame. Yeah. Like, I'm so spoiled by like the ongoing fluid set list.
Yeah.
That the idea that someone would like, because we went to see Phil Lesh and Friends. I mean, this is years ago now, but like see Phil Lesh and Friends, and like him and his band, like they stop and he like does it on a different pace, and they all like look at each other, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Like, come on, Phil.
Come on, guys. Like, what the fuck? I'm like expecting a little bit more of a fluid experience here.
Yeah. So what's this card about?
I don't know, clarity on the Page of Pentacles.
All right, here's a little more clarity for y'all. Ooh. What is this card?
3 of Pentacles?
No, I don't think it's Pentacles. Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah, so the 3 of Pentacles is a guy in what looks like a church of some sort, crafting, sculpting art while people onlook, and I guess it's whatever question you asked, it's kind of a reminder to, artistically invest in yourself, and with the idea of it being, it's part of a relationship between like creation and reception.
Pretty good.
Bullshitting 101.
Yeah, here we go. Here's another one. Page of Swords.
We're babies today.
Yeah, I think so. It's just like we're little protozoa. We're little sperms. A couple people passed away that I want to honor.
Okay.
Lee Scratch Perry, R.I.P., legendary Jamaican producer and musician.
We saw him in Bushwick perform the best show ever at like, what, 93 years old?
No, he was, I think he's only in his 80s when he died, so that was a couple of years ago. But
well, he seemed really fucking old. Like, I mean, really young in spirit.
Yeah.
But also just like, you can tell when someone's an old motherfucker, you know what I mean? And like, Yeah, no, he put on such a great show, though. It was so fun and such a good vibe, and smoked the biggest.
He comes out with a fucking foot-long joint. It's fat little foot-long joint. He's just on the microphone and just smoking this joint for 2 hours. Just smoking, fucking doing his thing.
Man, don't you wish you could be Lee Scratch Perry?
Yeah.
Or it could have been, just like just have a crew of like homies with you, and then you go and you just make a party for people and just smoke so much weed.
Yeah.
And sing about having a party.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he knew who he was, and he stuck with it. And it's really impressive when you see someone that far into this dance of life that's still just being so true to themselves. It's yeah, R.I.P. Rest in power, my man.
Yeah, musicians are the most interesting in that, or that like you follow one idea, and it's so hard to like hold an idea and continue to invest in it, in showing up and writing the lyrics and writing the music and then producing the song and then like following this thing.
Yeah, shooting these little gems out into the ether and hoping people resonate with it.
I mean, we're just so distractible that for someone to be able to write a song and then follow through and then record it and then devote their life to performing that music is like, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, who else do you want to honor?
Norm Mcdonald.
Yeah. I had other plans for my day yesterday, and I just ended up watching like every late night appearance he did.
He was a fucking legend. One of the funniest people ever. Really.
Hilarious.
Fucking deadpan.
Yeah.
Deadpan. And nothing fucking shook this guy. Nothing shook this guy. I watched a clip of him on The View back in the 90s. And he said, we got to get these murderers out of the White House. And they're like, Barbara Walters is like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Bill Clinton, didn't he kill a guy? Like he's just saying this shit back in the 90s while Bill Clinton was still president. And the fucking women on The View start freaking out. And they're like, stop it, you're taking it too far. And he's just like, what do you mean? I thought this was common knowledge. And he just keeps going with it. They're covering his mouth, and he just keeps going with it. One of just fucking countless. Ballsy. Yeah, did not care.
Oh man, and he would do like so many of these meandering stories, jokes, and like half the jokes, like, Conan's like, come on now, are we gonna get to the punchline or what,
Yeah. The whole thing's the fucking
His
punchline.
voice is hilarious too,
Yeah.
Even his joke about cancer was like,
yeah.
He was saying something about, I when I die, cancer dies at the same time, so that's a draw.
That's a draw. That's not a loss.
That's not a loss. Yeah.
Yeah. He came into my radar. Like, he was part of the cast of Saturday Night Live that like I grew up on. I feel like when you're like 10, 11 years old, like Saturday Night Live, it comes into your worldview, and you pay attention to it. And he was just definitely one of the funniest guys of some of the better casts of all the Saturday Night Live ones. He was on there with like Phil Hartman and Adam Sandler and David Spade and Chris Rock and like just like all these legends. And he was he did the Weekend Update. He was the best Weekend Update guy ever. He would tell jokes that would always get him in trouble, and if he was doing that nowadays, he would be canceled. And he kind of was. He got fired from Saturday Night Live for not being funny enough. Like, seriously, that's what they said to him.
Yeah.
They said to Norm Macdonald, "You're not funny enough," and they let him go. Mm-hmm. That tells you all you need to know about that show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. I remember when I was a kid, I was so obsessed with like all those guys like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley. Like they lit up my world so much. I was so obsessed, but it was hard for me to stay awake till 11:30 at night, from 11:30 to 1 in the morning to watch this show. So I'd tell my parents, like, could you wake me up for Saturday Night Live if I fall asleep? And they'd always be like, yeah, and they didn't.
I feel like my generation really got the shit under the stick with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like this SNL, like, yeah.
We were saying this about the music that like you were exposed to in the mainstream versus the music I was exposed to in the mainstream. It's not like any 10, 11-year-old is going to be doing any deep diving to be like, wait a second, what's real comedy or what's real music? You're just going to kind of take what you're spoon fed.
Yeah, like I was saying to you, I didn't even realize that music was like so soul enlivening and enriching. I just thought it was like kind of like decoration. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like this, the things that the Spice Girls are singing about kind of relates to my life and
Yeah.
wanting to have lovers and
Yeah. It was such a product by the time you were coming up. It really made a big switch.
yeah. I mean, and so when you talk about like who you had on the cast of SNL, I'm just like, yeah.
You probably couldn't even remember the people that it got bad after that. It got really bad for a while.
Yeah, but as we learned from the series we've been watching, there's a dark side to the 90s, though.
Yeah. You want to talk about this Vice show we've been watching?
Whatever.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but
it's terrible. It's like so phoned in and so just nothing, but it's
we
an
keep
easy thing.
watching it.
Well, we watch it. We just like to watch a little something while we eat our meals. And we've been like for the past week just throwing on this show.
I mean, the one we watched yesterday really stuck with me about Heaven's Gate. And the Branch Davidians. And, we saw that series and everything. And so I knew a little bit more about that. But I didn't realize, like with the Suicide Pact, Heaven's Gate people, what really went into it. And I'm like watching these guys and I'm like, this makes sense.
Oh, yeah, Cass, you are the perfect person to get pulled into a cult. I feel like if you hadn't met me, you'd probably already would have done a Suicide Pact cult thing,
I mean, that is so not true. I am a critical thinker, but I am also like gullible and I want a bigger purpose. And I do believe that we're like going towards being these like genderless alien creatures. And I do believe that if you castrate yourself, you may be closer to where we're evolving to. And so there was something about it that really resonated with me. Not that I would do it on this human trip, but like the idea that what they did, and that some of them castrated themselves, and it was not about sex. It was more about like going beyond earthly human desires and kind of transcending your humanness and your human vehicle body. I'm like, right on, man. Like one of these guys that ended up surviving because he had some family issue that he had to deal with, and anyway, had a daughter or something. And they're talking to him, and he is like, I would have gotten castrated. I lost a coin toss, and I wish I was with them when they had done the Suicide Pact.
Yeah, he's like, I like my life, but I definitely wanted to do that with them, and I missed out.
And he talks about like this human vehicle, and just he says things that like make sense to me, that like we are not our bodies. Like that makes sense to me. Like once you kind of just like get into this state of mind where you're like, I'm not my body. This is like he didn't give it up. He wasn't like, oh, I regret, or he was like, no, this is their right.
Yeah.
And it's just a different flavor of it. It didn't seduce you at all?
No, because I don't find any glory in denying your humanity. I don't find any glory in mutilating your body to try to evolve faster. It seems like what we're not here to do. It seems like we took form in these flesh prisons to learn lessons. And, you just got to be patient with it. And the lessons will come, and they will continue to present themselves, and you don't necessarily have to cut off your dick to do. I mean, they're talking about like forced evolution in a way. Like it seems crazy to me. Like, can you imagine fucking monkeys shaving themselves with some vision of like, no, we need to transcend our monkeyness and embrace our future humanity, and we're gonna shave ourselves and like present as this thing. It's just like, it's just all. It just feels very myopic. It feels too like you're lost. You're in the fucking weeds, and I don't know, to try to escape this thing sooner than maybe you were supposed to. It just feels like you're going to get spit right back out into it, and you're going to have to learn those lessons harder this time.
Yeah, I've always kind of felt that way, that you really just don't have any guarantee of what happens when you die, and that if you were to take your own life, that who knows, that you wouldn't just do it again, or do it again worse, or whatever it is, or be in some sort of purgatory. But who knows that they didn't just go up and get on an alien spaceship when they all did that.
Well, that was
suicide.
the idea. That was the idea behind it, was they all, The cult started with them all thinking that their bodies would physically be beamed up to a UFO, and they would go, basically be like Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And when they when they saw what happened in Waco, Texas, with the Branch Davidians, and how the government basically fucking slaughtered all these people, they liked that.
They started buying guns because they're like, we need to go out, suicide by cop.
Basically, yeah. They were like, oh, maybe the government will do that for us. Maybe that's how we got on the spaceship. And
but they were too well behaved.
They were too well behaved. No one cared about them.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything illegal. So, when the Hale-Bopp comet came through, I think it was 1997. I don't know if you remember those days, but the Hale-Bopp comet came through, and that was like big news. And they were like, that's it. The spaceship is hiding behind the Hale-Bopp comet. We need to get on it. And 39 people poisoned and suffocated themselves.
And we don't know that they didn't
crazy.
Get on that spaceship. We don't know.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But I'm saying.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I think where I'm going with it is we don't know what happens when you die. And I think what was so seductive about that was that they were saying, we know what happens. That the leader of that cult was like, I know what happens. We are safe if we go together. And I think with the big fear of the unknown and the big fear of death is that people want to believe that they can kind of transcend whatever it is, wherever they're going to go next, or have a say in how that happens or what that means.
Mm.
No, I don't support it, and I wouldn't suggest it, and I wouldn't do it myself. But there's something about it that is just so freaking fascinating.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because watching these videos of these people, I'm like, yo, they're not in their wrong minds. They just have a different way of looking at the world, and actually a way that we all 20, 30 years later are kind of evolving to see.
Yeah.
This. They were, they made money. Designing websites because they were all about technology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well,
it breaks my heart though when you when you see the interviews with the parents of people that lost their kids, and they were mixed up kids, who got involved with a cult and they ended up fucking killing themselves, and it's just fuck, I'd love to get on a spaceship too. And
the likelihood that there was a spaceship is very unlikely.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. It's I would love to get on that spaceship. If it's required that I kill this body to do it, it's not worth it to me, because I know that I'll be creating such grief and suffering in my friends and family that it's it feels very selfish. And
right.
it feels like something I wouldn't want to inflict that kind of pain on other people, by taking the easy way out, really.
Yeah.
The hard way out is to take what life has coming, which is going to be a lot of heartache, a lot of grief, a lot of pain. But there's also these just glorious, amazing, transcendent moments. And if you show up for it, you'll notice them more. You'll notice them more. And I think instead of being so fixated on their death and the afterlife, they should have focused more on what they could do to improve the material conditions of the way we're living now. This is the UFO. We're on it.
Yeah, I kind of
It's
like
a big
that.
planet-sized UFO, and we're lucky to be on it. And we were grown by this thing. We were grown by this thing to complete quests and missions and fucking work out some karmic predicaments. And I think it's really fun. And if you start to just zoom out and see it more like that, maybe you don't take the day-to-day slog of this thing as seriously. And I don't know, for me personally, I'm just always looking for more excuses not to take the day-to-day slog of this thing as seriously. Just little reminders wherever I can fucking find them. To me, that's a decent tool to have in my tool belt, because it calms me down, it grounds me in the moment, and that's where my creativity is. So I don't need to kill myself with a bunch of fucking weirdos who castrate them. Come on. If that's not a dead giveaway that someone is leading you down the wrong path,
I'm super inspired by it, because it kind of feels like this monkhood,
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like when people, I don't think it's my path in this lifetime, but it's kind of like when people go hide in a cave or whatever it is. I mean, that's probably not the nicest way to put it. But extricate themselves from society to go on a spiritual vision quest of, their own mind and body and soul and spirit.
Yeah. It's just, sometimes it's crazy to me, the idea that your spiritual life is separate and distinct from your regular, like it's all the same fucking thing. Like,
Well,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? You gotta have a fucking spiritual awakening while you're cooking potatoes. Like it.
Well, I think that's where we both really got to on this path, and thank God we've stayed on the same page because it's allowed us to stay in this relationship. But that, like, being human is the trip. It is the point. You know, like,
yeah,
it is
and all the flaws that come along with it.
like you were saying to me, like, there is no less sacred space. Because I was talking about a space, and I was like, oh, it's so sacred, and you're like, but how is the apartment across the street not sacred? How is nothing? Like, everything is sacred.
The elevator, the hallway, these, you know.
Yeah. The idea that something's more sacred is an illusion. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And just every now and then you got to get real with yourself because you can get pulled into people's narratives. There's people that need to think, oh, this place that I live, this land I reside on is extra special and it's different and it's all that. And like, to me, it's one of those tools to just like kind of even the playing field. You know where the most sacred place in this universe is? Right here, right now, right where we are. And anyone listening to this, the same fucking thing. Breathe into that. Breathe into that, and you'll see a lot of those surface level worries and anxieties just kind of shed away. It's really nice, I think. That's what meditation's helped me tap into.
I think there is something to charging up a space and collective intention.
Hell yeah.
And I think that those things can coexist with all is sacred.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is sacred. Everywhere is sacred. And maybe charging up your own space and your own moment in time and space is exactly what we should be doing and could be doing, rather than being like, oh, I wish I was there, or I wish I could do this, or, you know, it's like, no, the person you interact with at work, like, that is a sacred being. You're in a sacred moment.
Yeah.
You know, bringing the divinity into every interaction and seeing, because when you look for the magic, you see the magic comes.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Where we almost like, sometimes we feel like we can't leave the house because it's like almost too much. The portals we end up opening.
Oh God, it's fucking insane.
Where we're like, all right, let's go out and have a magical time, and then you meet someone and you're like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna be friends for 40 years, you know.
I love that. It's very exciting. I think it's one of the qualities of our life that I enjoy the most. And it took us so long to get there. When we first moved into this apartment, we had no friends. We hung out with like the same two people all the time, and we just end up in the same conversations. And it just felt like it was getting stale and frustrating because we weren't evolving. We weren't putting ourselves out there in any way. We weren't pushing. And once we made that the priority, like basically at some point, I don't know when, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, we like sat down and prayed, and we're like, we want our life to be more exciting. We want it to be filled with much more interesting characters. We want to be open and compassionate to people. Like, we can handle the freaks, universe, send them our way. And good fucking Lord, have they come in mass.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Who was saying the other day, I think we were watching something, and it was talking about how, like, there can be love without sex and sex without, or like like loving is something that is like a priority, and that sex often goes with love, but a lot of times it doesn't. And I don't know, it really resonated with me as far as like kind of the relationships we end up having with a lot of people is like such a deep, deep love. And I think that it can be confusing at times because maybe when people are used to being loved that deeply, they expect that, like,
sex comes along with it.
Yeah, or that you want sex for them, or that, you know, it's like, it's not about sex.
Yeah. I'm not trying to seduce you. I'm seducing myself. I'm deeply in love with this experience and being Sean. And a wonderful byproduct of that, a symptom of that, is how deep all of our friendships have become.
Yeah.
But with that, can come some confusion because there's a lot of people that haven't even started that work. You know, they think it's all out here. It's like, no, it's an inside job. Just charge your fucking spaceship up, you know? Fill it up with joy and happiness and inspiration. And you'll start, and magic and good thoughts, and you'll start to see the world around you change. It's really an incredible process, and it's before we really got down and dirty with all this stuff, I wouldn't have believed some of the stuff I'm saying. I would have heard these words and been like, oh God, shut up, you know.
About love
About kind of like that it's an inside job and you're creating your reality with the thoughts that you indulge, and the way you see yourself is definitely going to be reflected in your experience. So, we have a friend that's always like, hey, if I'm annoying, please tell me. Am I too much? Am I annoying? And it's like, hadn't crossed my mind at all, but I don't know. Now that you mention it, yeah, kind of. But then you realize it's just like, oh, you're annoyed with yourself. You're over yourself. You can't, and it's making it hard to function, and you're manifesting kind of the worst possible low frequency vision for who you are and making it other people's problem in a way. Like, I have to validate you now. Like, you think you're annoying, you probably are. Like, don't make me get involved with that.
Well, it just reminds me of like when I was 26, 27. I'm not saying I'm past it, but there is like these different phases that feel very connected to our age and kind of like what we go through, and like how you like wanting the external validation, or like wanting someone to tell you like, what am I doing wrong? Can you just tell me what I'm doing wrong? And the truth is, no one's going to tell you. You're only going to feel through like the vibration, and you kind of have to pick up on that and then not really care so much at the same time, because if you care too much, it's like you fucking move on. Like, we're in a river, man. Like, you do not want to get caught behind some fucking self-critical anxious rock where your biggest thing in your life is all you can see is this rock, but there's like a full fucking river that's gonna
life is just like flowing by you, and you're like stuck behind this rock. And
I mean, I think it's a really good analogy for how you can get caught on a negative perception of yourself. Literally caught up. I'm like, oh, I did this, and or what's going on with that. And it's like, literally, you don't have to care about that. You don't have to. Lately, I was saying this too last night. I was like, I have been having this experience lately where I want to be not like, if anyone's telling me that like, oh, they, or have problems or whatever, as far as like hating themselves, I'm like, or, or they're annoying or whatever, like, I'm like, you're not, I'm annoying. Like, I'm the worst person ever. Like, or if you're like, oh,
you love that.
Yeah, no, but I'm like, what kind of game am I playing where I want to be the person that's responsible for every fucking issue in this world? Because it's like this, we talked about this in the last podcast, but it's like this balance of like taking responsibility for everything, but then also you kind of can go too far in that direction where you just are like, oh, you think you're bad? I'm the one who's bad. You think that you have a dark shadow. Wait, you don't even know about mine. Like, I'm a horrible person. I'm the worst person. And I'm like, what is this? A competition for who can be the worst person? Like, I'm obviously not the worst person. I like fucking try to have a good time and be chill. Like, I'm not the worst person. I don't think. I hope not. But it's like this also wanting to keep that in check. The balance of like, okay, be aware of where you haven't been kind, and be aware of where you've not communicated yourself clearly, or the ways that you've, whatever it is, blah, 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 blah. Like, there can be an awareness and a willingness to adjust that, but like telling the story of how I am the worst person is like, why am I doing that? Why do I feel like that's what I want to do with my time? Is it competitive,
I mean, it just comes from like, I don't know, the way you were raised. I think we were both raised by people that blamed us for a lot, for everything that what fucking could have possibly gone wrong. And I almost had the opposite response to you, I'm like, no, that ain't my, like, I can kind of see it for what it is a lot of times. And it's like, you are so trained to be like, oh, well, I know why all that went wrong. It's because I said this thing to that guy, and I'm like, you're zoomed in on a little speck of dust like that. You did not cause this. You didn't do that, babe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the relationship you have with people who have addiction in their life, because you want to be empowered to make a difference, and you want to feel like, if only I did this, then that would have happened, and then they wouldn't have had too much to drink, and then this and then that, and if only I had said it nicer to them, then they would have seen how I really felt and not gotten defensive. And I think there's like something to that where you can deconstruct what has transpired and try to do things better in the future, but then there's also like a point at which it gets like a sickness where you're like, okay, it just, and that's where like acceptance comes in. And I've like kind of the place of more zen within me is like when I accept that not everything's supposed to be rainbows and butterflies every second of the day, you know, and that things, when I fuck up, it's perfect. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be the person who's perfect all the time. Like, as much as I want to be this like holier than thou, I mean, I don't want to be holier than thou, but you know what I mean? You want to aspire to be
Yeah.
like this person who fucking does everything right and well and everything.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the place where you fuck up and you're just like, oh, I guess I was supposed to be annoying that night. Or I guess
Totally.
I was supposed to push that person's buttons and have them kind of react to me negatively and then see what that feels like, because that gets around to back what we're saying. Like, we're humans. We're supposed to be having this human
Yeah.
experience. And if we're doing it perfectly, like what's the lesson?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
You're being too precious.
Right.
If you're fixated on doing it perfectly. Like, you know, it's a great example is, and I'm not proud of this, but the other day it was Mare's birthday, and it's like, you know, on someone's birthday, it's like, yeah, let's be extra sweet. Let's like let's shroud her up in rainbows. Like, let's do it. And she said some sassy thing to me, and I lost my fucking mind and just exploded. And, you know, I'm beating myself up like fucking, God damn, it's Mare's birthday, and I'm doing nothing but fucking being critical and like busting her balls about this fucking can of worms she just opened up. And then, like, you know, it settles down a little bit, and we end up talking about a lot of stuff that we needed to fucking talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know how it would have come up otherwise.
Yeah, like the air needed to be cleared about some narratives and stuff.
I didn't even know. I didn't even realize that till, like, we're in this fucking chaos, or it seems like chaos, but it's like, oh no, that was leading us to this moment where like the lesson was like perfectly presented as a gift, and we got to together, without anyone running out of here, no breakups, nothing like that. We got to navigate it. We got to say like you guys not holding me to my lowest moment, and us not holding her to her lowest moment, and evolving together and just talking out some of the stuff without shame and blame. Like, Mare being sassy towards me and me reacting explosively actually led us to that place. And it's funny because if she overlays our charts, and like that's kind of one of our forms of communication.
It's miscommunication?
Is miscommunication.
Or bad communication?
Yeah, but is it bad if it led us to now?
No.
I feel more on point and on the same page as her than ever.
Yeah, no, you guys
It's
definitely were
crazy.
we were definitely able to take the relationship into a deeper dimension because when you have a perceived like misunderstanding of your being or whatever, and then you extricate it and you don't just like let it pass through, you're like, no, wait, hold on. You think I've been dishonest to you about this? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? And then you have to go through it, and then she actually ends up evolving to a place, not evolving, but like understanding, getting to a deeper understanding of who you are and where you're coming from, because it was like the funniest fight in some ways. It was not fun, but it was kind of ridiculous in that I'm like, you guys both just love each other. Like, this is
I know.
about love. You want Sean to be honest to you, and Sean wants you to know that he's being honest with you, and that's what's happening here, because I can see it from a little bit on the outside, but
Yeah.
you guys need to get into the mud to get to that place, I guess.
I've done relationships for so long that I realize like my most unbecoming moments actually lead to some of the deeper, more bonding situations that I've had with women. It's kind of crazy. Like, not that I want to be like that. I'm looking to be less reactive and less explosive, but you see how it serves you if you're honoring whatever that is inside of you that's telling you, yo, express these things, clear these things up. It always leads to something better, especially if you have like I'm committed. I'm committed to this relationship and our relationship with Mare. I don't want to see it end over a stupid fight or a stupid misunderstanding. You know, there's reasons relationships should end, but in my experience, when you go out on that low note of a fight, it's kind of like what we say about killing yourself. It's like you take that with you right into the next fucking thing, and it's amplified, and it's there, and it's on your mind, and you're like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And then you start being that guy again, and it's like, well, you know what I'm going to do? This time I'm not going to break up with the person. This time I'm not going to fucking choose the nuclear option on my life and settle and try to bring the love into just try to bring the awareness of the love back into the room.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there was a moment in the whole thing which is, we're getting like, we're fucking like, she's really good at arguing, and I think I'm really good at arguing, and we were both just like digging our heels in, and it's just like, I was just like stood up, and I went over to her, and I was like, let's stop, you know, and she started crying, and she wanted to stop too, and we just said, let's stop, and let's start working this out, you know, and we still had some sharp words for each other, but there was an understanding like, yeah, we want to be together. We're going to be together. This isn't that fragile. This is never as fragile as it appears on the surface, especially when we're fighting.
Yeah, that's what can be hard in fights, is that when you like are really attached to the relationship. And I feel like you and I are at this place where we're like obviously very attached to our like the relationship, and of course the relationship with Mare, but I feel like, you know, 1 every 3 fights I'm like, I'm done, and you say I'm done too. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe I used to throw the breakup thing a little bit more in the earlier parts of it, and I'm probably taking the baton on that one. But just kind of like that freedom of like, we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
We don't have to be in a relationship. And there's something, I'm not trying to counter you, but there's something also about that like lack of attachment of.
Totally. But in that really tough moment on Mare's birthday, like I just in a really critical point in the whole narrative, I just reminded myself, I want to be with her. I want to work this out. Why would I go any further into being mean? You know, why would I present any more silly little evidence as to why I got triggered? Like, let's get real. I want to be with this woman. You know, we want to do this. There's like so much great shit that's going to come from us traversing these things with a good head on our shoulders. So like everyone will benefit from it.
You guys were having a fight that I had like already had with you like a million times, and I'm just like,
yeah.
I was like able to just kind of watch it and just be like,
yeah. Well, I mean, and you know that's part of why that fight needed to go down. Is just like, you know, I can be fucking real loosey goosey, and you're like so therefore you're so forgiving, and you've known me for so long that you know like what's, you know, outside of the realm of acceptable behavior and what's not, and like you know, it was just like it was nice for you to kind of hear that and say like, oh wow, we're on the other side of that thing. But it was also a good reminder for me, like, well, our thing with Mare is kind of at the beginning compared to this. We've been together 10 years. We've been with Mare for 10 months.
Right.
So it's like, okay, we're going to have to go through some of this stuff. It might feel basic to me, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't go through it, that we shouldn't work this out, that we shouldn't basically, it's about making a person feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and loved. And, you know, sometimes that gets really sticky, but man, you're a saint, Cass. Like, for real. You've just seen me fucking be such a freak in so many ways, and you're so forgiving, and you're like, you understand that men are different than women. And you understand, like, yeah, I mean, I got 2 heads, and sometimes one takes over, and it's just, that ain't me, but
it gets you in more trouble than it gets me, and so I don't even care anymore. I'm not saying, like, let's be clear, we're in a committed throuple monogamous relationship, but I'm just saying we've traversed some weird territory, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I've stopped caring and stopped being precious about it, it just like became like, I just have such a good time in my life. Well, and then you fucking, I don't know what you do. You have a good time too.
I have a good time. I think I have a better time than most, you know.
You and I are just in the competition of like, who's going to have more fun between the two of us.
But to the point where you're like, I'm not going to even indulge my potential rage because it's going to impede on my good time. And I'm all about having a good time. And it's like, it's inspiring, but it's frustrating.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like, oh, damn, you pulled the parachute on this thing? I thought we were fucking going to hit the ground together. You pulled the parachute, you're going to just be light and fluffy and sweet and nice and forgiving. Like, come on.
Yeah. Dude, relationships are so crazy. The dance we do with each other and the dances we need to do and the way we need to, what we need to do to feel safe and heard and understood and try to communicate better. And also realize, like, we're going to have the same fights over and over again, and that doesn't mean we're not evolving as people. It just means that, you know, there's certain fights that are going to come up again and again, you know?
Yeah, and it's not about becoming a more ardent defender of your territory or like hardening up and like, you know, drawing lines and this and that. It's actually about the opposite. You know, if you want to have a relationship that feels like it's constantly blossoming, you got to fucking get down with letting go. You got to get down with that because, you know, it's like I've said before, otherwise you're susceptible to that energy of holding someone to their lowest moment. You know, of you know, holding someone there and it's like, oh, you might be being cool right now, but like, you motherfucker, you said that thing 3 days ago and I'm just not over it. And it's hard to have a constantly blossoming relationship if you're collecting evidence.
Well, if you're stuck behind a rock.
Basically.
You know?
You're stuck behind a rock.
And I think that, like, yeah, and there's like the dance of, I think the whole psychedelic path and the realization of like the oneness and the karmic dance that's happening and that you're like, you know, I remember once staring into your eyes and being so upset that there wasn't a there, you know?
What's that mean?
That you, in that moment, because I was so high, we were the same thing, and like you were just like, it was so annoying. I was like just wanted to slap you, like, and like get something different that I was unexpected or whatever it is, and I just saw you just mirroring me.
Yeah.
Not like mirroring in the same way, but just like being and I was just like, wow, I really thought I was in love with someone.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he's nothing.
It was me.
He's nothing. He's me. He's no one, you know, and that's a very high level concept that I still like take with me, but it's obviously nuanced because I'm doing the human dance and you are human and you have your own perceptions and perspectives, and I want to respect you and your own dance and your own life, and of course I want to see you as your own person.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, fuck, we're all the same thing. Like, we're all part of this.
Yeah.
We're all like blades of grass on this fucking thing, and we're all deeply connected to what's going on here, and it can feel really weird.
Yeah, you get that high and you really start to feel, and it can be disturbing, you start to feel the harmony and the oneness, and, you know, that just, you really, really viscerally experience that we're part of like a macroorganism.
Mm.
And it can be disturbing because like we're so used to the otherization of of everything. And when you're that high and you're kind of seeing beyond all that indoctrination and those concepts that have made us feel separate, it can be disturbing. You're like, oh man, what the fuck? You're the same thing as me? Fucking Jesus Christ, it is lonely down here.
Well, that's where like it's definitely a place where you realize like what makes you feel good is making other people feel good.
Yeah.
You know, because they are you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so making someone else's day brighter is like, it's like a drug, you know.
Yeah.
You want to do it, and when you're making someone else suffer, you're suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just simple. It's so simple, and that's why I feel like we keep doing this podcast and keep showing up, is because we're just unpacking the simple messages of life for ourselves. And we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives, unpacking the simple messages of life, of what's going on here and what it's all about, and whether or not to castrate ourselves and stuff like that.
Yeah. Should we do that?
When we're done with this layer of the trip, we'll get castrated.
Oh
It'll happen for us at some point.
You know, I never knew that detail of the Heaven's Gate cult.
Oh, I didn't either.
My jaw dropped when they started going into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy who did get castrated was like, I feel so free as someone who, and
he's like, you have no idea.
He's like 27 years old.
Yeah. He's like, you have no
I'm like,
idea
I bet you
the
do
weight
feel
off my shoulders.
And I bet he's right. I bet it is right. Like if be like you're talking about, I've recognized that you have a second head. the crucial head or whatever you call it. You know what I mean? There's two heads here.
Yeah.
And it gets men in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't have that second head, maybe things would be a little simpler in your life sometimes.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is just like it's not that's not up to me. That's too much power. No, that's too much power in my hands to decide to fucking cut off my genitals to be more to achieve my alienhood sooner. Like, come on, I'm gonna earn it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
And
going out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I have a dick. I'm gonna use it. Like, you're using your body. We're using our bodies. We're just doing our best to get through.
I mean, it's awesome. Having a body's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Whether or not you have a partner, it's awesome. The fact that you can like release stress and tension and have a pleasure ride is like, that's a fucking cool thing.
Yeah, it is.
Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself. This fucking flew by. Have we really been talking for like an hour right now?
I think so.
This flew by. Cass, I feel like we've been talking for 15 minutes. I feel like we're still introducing what we're going to really talk about.
We're still in the introduction. This is a really long introduction.
Yeah, totally. It's really fun. I love talking to you. I love doing this.
Yeah. The 11-year nonstop conversation continues. Mm-hmm. Thanks for being a part of it with us.
Yeah. Do you want to do more? Should we hop over onto the Patreon?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. We do bonus podcasts, and we do this show called The Afterglow on our Patreon. The Afterglow is really cool because it's like, you just heard us talk for an hour, and then we're really loose on there. We just
sometimes a little too loose.
I know, but that's just to if you sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/churchofchill, you're a trustworthy ninja, and you can hear us talk a little bit.
Yeah, we get to talk to our like couple hundred best friends.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Join the gang, and we're having a really good time. We're having a really good time on the Patreon. Lots of music, lots of art, new podcasts all the time, and the Discord community where it's like that's like the breeding ground for this community and new friends forming and bands forming and fucking people hanging out. It's so cool. Like, we took it for granted for so long. We should have started a fucking Discord community right out of the gate with this thing, but we took it for granted for so long. We're like, who even listens to us? And if they do, they don't want to talk to other people that listen to us. And God, was I fucking way off on that, Because, like, we started this thing a year ago, and it's like, there's like 250 people in there that are fucking chopping it up 24/7 all over the world, and it inspires us.
Well, community is so important, and feeling more connected to like-minded people is very important, especially right now where you can feel very like disconnected and alone, and realizing like, oh, there's other motherfuckers who understand that castrating might lead you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know why. I got to get off this. I really got to get off of this.
No, you really liked. I mean, it's interesting how much you liked these guys cutting their dicks off to be aliens, and you don't have a dick. So the idea that this really perks you up this much disturbs me a little bit, and it's okay.
Well, I think you could do it as a woman too. Like, it'd probably be different.
Sure, I don't even want to fucking think.
You'd probably take hormones and stuff, and just. I don't know. I think I just aspire to whatever the next higher state of consciousness is, and I am going to dance with my desires for the rest of my life, and I don't want to be in denial about them, but I also like the idea of being an alien who maybe is more of an angel than like someone.
Patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're a young one. You're only 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot more trips around the sun to do before you're an alien. It's part of it. This is a part of it. We will be those aliens one day.
I hope so.
But we don't have to rush it. We should be patient. We should be patient with each other. Be patient with ourselves. Forgiveness. Name of the game. Self-love.
Yeah.
And then it all starts to reflect. We're building out a realm that is a little bit better place for us to reside. It feels more welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's tough. It's tough, being a human in 2021, stuck in this liminal space of a pandemic that's getting worse, and just fucking, frustrating fucking times. The types of times that aliven the worst kinds of anxieties, like a real super existential stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you have to let it bring out the worst in you to then realize, like, oh, you don't want to be divisive, and you want to love everybody, and you want to understand everyone better, and also understand that everyone has their own trip, and it's all perfect. And yeah, I think sometimes going in and through the anger can be purifying, because that's not what's up.
Yeah, but I mean, it's exactly the example of me fighting with Mare on her birthday. You know, going through that made us better. It helped us evolve. So I think that, you know, you just take what life's throwing at you, and I feel like meditation has really helped put me into a gear that's sustainable. And I was in a gear in my 20s and early 30s. I was in a gear that was unsustainable. The RPMs were fucking in the red, you know, and it helped me produce a lot of cool, like, ambitious stuff. But the meditation and the slowing down and the valuing of the moment and not being so fixated on the future has really helped me.
Well, you're 40. You're an old man now. So.
Yeah, things are calming down. It's good.
This is when dads usually stop hitting their kids or whatever the fuck happens. That's not. I'm sorry to make a joke out of that, but that is kind of like this thing that happens where men and like are so. They take out their anger, and then all of a sudden people are like, "Yeah, my dad got older, and he's like fucking cool.
Yeah,
you know, he's not taking out all his shit on me."
Yeah, my dad was scary in his fucking 30s and 40s. Like, it was scary.
Yeah.
He was in first gear, but pedal to the metal, going 1,000 miles an hour. But in first gear, so it was like, and there's smoke coming out, and everything's overheating, and pistons are blowing left and right, and you know, time and life experience, and somehow he's still here, like, has calmed this motherfucker down. So it's great. We went through this thing. So many times I tried to cut my dad out of my life. Thank God it didn't stick. Thank fucking God. You know, this guy was a motherfucker. This guy fucking...
Well, literally. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he was just, he was just the worst for a while. He was going through addiction and depression. And it was really hard. Everything was completely out of control. And I thought if I could just cut out that thing, it would be like cutting out a tumor. And it wouldn't grow or whatever, but that would have been like introducing a tumor if I would have.
Well, that's like what I was saying about addiction. It's like you think children of addicts blame themselves and think like, if only I could just do this, if only I could. And that's where I think you've become so crisp and clear with your words, because you've had to get like a lot of information across to someone who's not in their right mind, and do it very sharply
and quickly.
You have like quite the tool belt, and it's so funny because those tools it did help your dad at times, but probably isn't what he really needed as you continue to learn more. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he needed it, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's all perfect.
It's kind of like a tough love thing, because he does respond to that even now. You know
yeah, some
what I
people
mean?
do.
Yeah, like I'm his son.
Yeah.
Like,
if someone can give him tough love, it should be you. You know.
I'm the only other man in his life that could talk to him like this.
Right.
I'm the only other person in his life that could say, "Man up," and he's probably really the only person I'm comfortable saying that to.
Right.
So thank God we have each other. I don't have a brother.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have people like that. So our bond now is far beyond anything I could have ever hoped for. And it's because, you know, we've been patient with each other and we've been forgiving, and I've replaced the tough love with just like actual love. Tough love is conditional. It's like, it's bullshit, you know, and there's a time and a place for it, but I've replaced that with like acceptance and forgiveness and compassion, and you can feel that. And it actually makes the tough love portion that much more effective, because he knows now if he's getting that version of me, he's pushed it really far, and he doesn't want to make people feel like that. So he's learned to pop it into another gear, and it's been really important to me. And I know not everybody can heal their parental relationships in this life, but it's something that I never expected or hoped for or even dreamed of, but I've been able to do by exactly what we've been talking about this whole time, is just like showing up and recognizing his divinity, and offering myself self-forgiveness. This isn't my fault. Offering myself so much love that that's what I can transmute, you know? I possess the self-love so I can transmute it. And, you know, he gets around me, and then that comes online for him, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, and we can do that for each other.
Yeah.
Just got to hold that space.
Love yourself.
Don't forget. Remember. Cool. Patreon.com/churchofchill if you want to chill with us a little longer on the afterglow. We love you. We have Church of Chill t-shirts. Cass is wearing one. We just got a whole batch of tie-dyed ones. This might be our last run of this design.
Yeah.
So they're going to sell out soon. And if you've been thinking about getting one, now would be a good time because we're running low, and we have this last batch that we tie-dyed. They're very special. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
See ya.
Right. Peace, love, and magic.